So we are talking in the last class about the role of basal ganglia, right, in movement. So we had seen that basal ganglia has got various circuits which control different aspects of motor activity. So this is the skeletal-motor circuit. In the skeletal-motor circuit, in a very simplistic form, there is a circuit or a connection between the cortex, striatum, and the thalamus, right? And we have seen that from the striatum to the thalamus, there are two pathways: direct pathway and indirect pathway. Effect of direct pathway on the overall function of the thalamus is excitatory, and indirect pathway is inhibitory, right? Substantia nigra, which is a midbrain structure, it facilitates or increases the direct pathway, thereby increasing the overall activity in the motor pathways, and it inhibits the indirect pathway. So if the inhibitory pathway is inhibited itself, so there will be an overall facilitation. So this is the circuit of the basal ganglia in a very simple way. We have also talked about the different intricacies, right? The direct and the indirect pathway. Dopamine के बारे में also we have seen that dopamine acts on the direct pathway through D1 receptor, enhancing its excitatory effect, and it acts on the indirect pathway through D2 receptor, inhibiting the indirect pathway. So net effect of dopamine is facilitation of activity. So we have seen the different functions of basal ganglia. Mainly, like the 2-3 important points that we need to remember is basal ganglia is a structure which functions before the execution of movement. So planning and programming movement, it is very important, right, in bringing about transition from one movement to the other, scaling the intensity required in a movement. So all these are functions of basal ganglia. Apart from the main functions, it also influences the tone, right, because some of the pathway projections would look at the final projections, they also go to the spinal cord, right, and the brainstem. So in the medial descending pathways, there are some projections on the medial descending pathways, so which are broadly concerned with gamma motor neuron activity, reticulospinal tract, medullary, and this pontine, and so all these things which are concerned with tone and posture. So here you have an effect on tone, right? So these are the other circuits, we have talked about this already. So apart from the motor circuit, basal ganglia is also concerned with some form of emotional expression, right? Say the move, because it controls the automatic movements of the body. So automatic movements can be in the form of swinging of the arms while you walk. Automatic movements are also seen when you communicate. Facial expressions also, the contraction of a certain muscle, relaxation of a certain muscle, this is also an automatic thing, right? Hand gestures while you communicate, these are all automatic movements. So they are also under the control of basal ganglia. So emotional expression, in this way the basal ganglia can influence. Second, other thing that you should need to know is appropriate behavioral response to cognitive tasks. So cognition means how you respond, the behavior in response to cognitive tasks, that also is a function of basal ganglia. So emotions and cognition, there are two other aspects of basal ganglia function apart from the regulation and influencing of the motor activity. We have also seen about the Parkinson's disease, where there is basically a degeneration of the dopaminergic projections from the substantia nigra to the striatum, right? And you see that the direct pathway, which was the facilitatory pathway, this is inhibited because of the loss of this dopaminergic neurons or the receptors, and indirect pathway, which is the inhibitory pathway, that increases, right? So as a final outcome of this, we find that there are 2-3 important classical triad that we see. Bradykinesia, that is slowness in movement. So there is slowness in movement execution, bradykinesia. Also, if you talk of initiation part, that is also slow, but it has got a different name, akinesia. So akinesia, bradykinesia, generally what you see in basal ganglia movement is slowness of movement. We also see increased rigidity, right, on the muscles. This is because of the loss of this facilitatory influence on the Golgi tendon reflex. So from the reticular formation, descending tracts that we discussed were the major descending tracts or influences, right? But there are lots and lots of such influences which come down to the spinal cord, some directly on the alpha motor neurons or the gamma motor neurons, some also on the interneurons. Rather, most of the descending influences are actually on the interneurons, right? So, similar to this concept, Golgi tendon organs which mediate the Golgi tendon reflex. Golgi tendon reflex was the inverse stretch reflex, which causes whenever there is an increased stretch reflex जब ज़्यादा हो जाता है, the muscle paradoxically it relaxes. So Golgi tendon reflex is a reflex which inhibits stretch reflex or gamma motor neuron activity. So supraspinal facilitation of this Golgi tendon reflex is reduced or affected. So Golgi tendon reflex, when it is less facilitated, so gamma motor neuron activity will go unopposed, right? And this will lead to one form of hypertonia. We call this the rigidity, right? Okay. Tremors. We have also seen tremors. The unique features of Parkinsonian tremor is it is resting tremor, right? And these are suppressed when you attempt any voluntary activity or movement. Compared to this, tremors are also seen in diseases of the cerebellum. But cerebellum में जो tremors they are called as intention tremors, which appear with voluntary movement but reduce with rest. This is a very classical difference between a lesion of basal ganglia and lesion of cerebellum. दोनों में tremors रहेंगे, but in one it is resting and one it is intention tremor. Cause of this tremor was unmasking of a thalamic pacemaker activity. So thalamus may you have a nucleus called as nucleus ventralis, and this nucleus has some neurons which has intrinsic pacemaker activity, like similar to the pacemaker activity you've seen in the SA node of the heart. Now day-to-day life may, when everything is normal, voluntary planning, voluntary action, voluntary execution, all of this takes precedence or it suppresses the intrinsic pacemaker activity. So whenever in a basal ganglia lesion, जब ये planning का circuit effect हो जाता है, when there is inhibitory influence to the thalamus, right? So this automaticity is unmasked. This automaticity leads to oscillations in the motor activities distal to the thalamus, motor circuits distal to the thalamus. तो thalamus से cortex में जो thalamocortical loop से there is a oscillatory activity, right? बीच में आ रहा है, some in between it's going. So this leads to a tremor at rest, and that is why whenever there is again a voluntary activity, so this tremor is suppressed. Okay. So we'll talk about chorioathetosis. Till now we have talked about Parkinson's disease. So Parkinson, if you have observed carefully, it is one form of hypokinetic disorder. When I say hypokinetic, it means that the movement is reduced. तो उसी के अलग-अलग manifestations we have seen in the slowness of movement, right? Masked fascies and everything, hypokinetic feature. Now this group of disorders that we are going to discuss today is about hyperkinetic forms or disorders of basal ganglia. So the first group of disorder is chorioathetosis, and it has two forms of manifestation. One form is chorea and the other one is athetosis. Chorea, as you can see, it is a brisk, jerky, purposeless movement, usually of the distal parts of the extremities, and along with that, there is usually a twitching of the facial muscles. This is seen mostly in lesions of the caudate nucleus. So you can remember C with C. So chorea is something you find in lesion of caudate nucleus. Let's say picture. So this is how a patient of chorea presents, right? You can see purposeless movements Very random, no specific pattern. Usually the distal muscles of the extremities, both of the upper limb as well as the lower limb. Okay. Athetosis, slightly different. It is a slow writhing movement of the extremities. And here also, mainly the distal muscles of the body are affected, right? Distal muscles of the extremities. Athetosis is seen in a lesion of the putamen, right? So let's see a picture. So this is how a patient of athetosis would look like. So distal writhing movements of the extremities. These are slower as compared to chorea. So chorea is very random and very fast. Athetosis is relatively slower, right? So both in the upper and in the lower extremities, you can see this type of abnormal movements. So you can just now have an idea that these are various forms of hyperkinetic disorders. And broadly what you find is degeneration of the indirect pathway, common to both of this. Of course, there are two specific sites, but the net effect, the hyperkinesia features are caused because of indirect pathway being degenerated. Remember, indirect pathway was inhibitory. So kahin na kahin there was, so one pathway being facilitatory, one being inhibitory, it was causing some form of balance, right? Checks and balance in a system of motor execution. So inhibitory influence, when it is gone, it leads to hyperkinesia, right? So manifestation are this. So some of the causes I've mentioned here, two important causes. There are lots of other genetic mutations which can result in these diseases. But two common ones are, one first is Huntington's chorea, which you find an abnormal form of the protein huntingtin, right? And the striking feature of this disease is autosomal dominant inheritance. So once this mutation develops, it is inherited in the autosomal dominant pattern. So Huntingtin protein gets mutated, leading to a form of chorea we call as Huntington's chorea. Wilson's disease, you might have read about this in biochemistry also, in copper metabolism, right? So what happens in, basically what happens in Wilson's disease, there is copper toxicity, right? And this happens because there is a mutation where copper transporting ATPase genes, right, situated in chromosome 30. So here you have a mutation. So normal forms of copper transport will be affected. Ceruloplasmin levels, what happens to those? Is it more or less? In Wilson's, it is less. So ceruloplasmin levels are less, and eventually you have symptoms of copper toxicity. So the medical, the broader name for Wilson's disease is hepatolenticular degeneration. So there is deposition and toxicity because of effect on the liver, biliary toxicity, right, because of copper. And the second area where it gets deposited is in the basal ganglia, lenticular nucleus. So that's why the name hepatolenticular degeneration. Wilson's also manifests with a very unique form of rings in the eyes. Do you remember the name? Greenish rings in the eyes, Kayser-Fleischer rings, right? Good. Okay. The other extreme form of movement disorder is balismus or hemibalismus, right? So balismus, hemibalismus, because it is affecting one form of the body, right? So what do you find here? Involuntary, right? Violent, these are actually very gross movements, intense power, violent movements of the extremities, and you see this in a lesion of the subthalamic nucleus, which is again a part of the indirect pathway, subthalamic nucleus. Ballistic movement, I told you in the last class, examples of ballistic movements. Do you remember anything? Balismus में जो नाम balismus आ रहा है, that comes from, it is similar to ballistic movement. Ballistic movements are movement sequences which once executed or initiated, you cannot stop in between, right? Say a boxer, when he lands a punch, right? When he starts this movement, he cannot stop this in between, right? So this type of movements are called as ballistic movements. Various dance forms, right? Of course, I'm not talking of the contemporary dance forms, but of socho, there are various dance forms which movement sequence. Kathak, for example, when you start spinning, usually before the entire thing is over, you cannot stop in between. right? So this type of movements are called as ballistic movements. So what is the advantage? This is an abnormal form, right? But the things are similar. But day-to-day life में ballistic movements, what advantage does it give us? Ballistic movements are very fast, right? Pre-decided sequences, they are just set into action. The brain just sets them into action all together. So they are very fast and they come with intense power. So compared to a regular voluntary movement, ballistic movements have the advantage of speed and immense amount of force or power. That's why you see these movements are actually gross movements. If you palpate or if you examine, these are actually, you will find that these movements are happening involuntarily because of the disease, but they are having a lot of power, violent, intense flame-like movements, balismus and hemibalismus. So this covered the lesions of basal ganglia. Next, we'll move on to the physiology of cerebellum and the basis of cerebellar disorders. Now, cerebellum does not directly influence the execution, right? It is not a structure which is involved directly in executing a movement. So if you think of any movement, right? So right now, so I saw him doing this, I saw one person doing this, some people are writing. So किसी भी movement में, right? What are the different facets of the movement? Whichever movement you think, you try to break it down into all of these different aspects. You have an idea of a certain movement, right? Idea, as I keep on reinforcing in every class, comes from the cortical association areas, right? Then idea needs to be converted to a plan. Idea itself cannot be set into action. There should be a sequence, there should be an algorithm, right? So these are concerned with the planning aspects. Planning में कौन सी चीज़ें involve होती हैं? So say for the idea that you want to execute, which joints of the body or which muscles of the body should move for a certain type of movement. Let's say you're writing, your muscles of the thenar eminence, muscles of the wrist, they have to move, right? Even some of you write very, with a less amount of force, some of you write with a more amount of force. So these things vary. Diagram mein the pattern of movement is something else. So muscles of the forearm are also involved to some extent. But for a proper movement, it is important that एक specified sequence में ही activities हो. Otherwise, you will not end up with the desired product or the desired diagram or the desired line, right? And joints के sequence के बाद muscles में which is it the agonist that should contract more or the antagonist, right? What are the varying degrees to which this agonist and antagonist should move? तो ये अलग-अलग पहलू हैं which also should be planned in advance for a proper result. So all of this happens with the participation of cerebellum, basal ganglia, right? These are two important structures concerned with planning and supplementary motor cortex. Once a plan is formed, then it is executed. So execution के बारे में we have talked a lot, right? Plan is fed into the primary motor cortex, right? Area number 4, from where pyramidal tracts or corticospinal tracts come down to the spinal cord. They are the upper motor neurons. Spinal cord में they end, right? हर level में there is a ending of the corticospinal tract. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ it ends in only cervical or in the lumbar segments. Each level of the spinal cord, corticospinal fibers will end. If I want my hand movements to be made, so these fibers ending on the cervical segments need to be activated, right? Why? Because these muscles are under control of brachial plexus. You have read about brachial plexus anatomy. So brachial plexus के जो segments हैं, cervical, right? Lower cervical and some of the thoracic segments, तो वहाँ पे activity है. If you want to voluntarily move a lower limb, so lumbosacral segments में जो neurons हैं, activity will reach there. So it's reaching there. There is an execution. During the process of execution, say if you have a compound movement, right? Compound movement actually best example is speaking. For each alphabet that we speak. So when we speak, actually, the alphabet becomes it is known as a new term called as a phoneme. So suppose you write the alphabet A, right? So वो एक figure है. You write somewhere, you draw somewhere. But when you make this sound with your vocal apparatus, this entire thing, so this sound A is now called as a phoneme. B is a different phoneme. So ऐसे phonemes में for everything that you speak, there are so many different phonemes that is involved. हर movement के लिए, हर phoneme के लिए, the pattern of movement in the articulators is different. When you say P, what happens? P जब हम लोग बोल रहे हैं, what happens to? There is a movement which is distinct. Lips are sealing and then they are released. When we say the word T, क्या change हो रहा है T में? The tip of the tongue is touching the कहाँ पे? बोलो T. So tell it from your experience. This is not something you need a textbook. You have been speaking a lot. तो बोलो फिर अभी T में क्या हो रहा है? Tip of the tongue is touching the palate. Yes. Whenever you uttering the word letter S, so what happens? There is a curling of the tip of the tongue. So for each of this, different movement patterns are activated. And you see, whenever we speak, we don't realize all of this, but each of these movements transition naturally. इतना natural कि हम लोग मतलब we don't even realize कि so much is happening. So most of the forms of motor activity, except for like the stereotype movements like walking, running, all of this, इनको छोड़ के most of the movements have multiple amount of this smaller steps. So execution smoothly हो ये भी important है for our day-to-day life, right? And when so many joints are involved, so many muscles are involved, so many neurons are involved in this process, there is a chance of error, right? And error needs to be corrected. Error correction can happen in two ways. आपने समझा कि गलती हुई है, right? There is a mistake, you realize and then you correct it. But इसमें cortex gets involved. You realize it, so that means something is happening in your cortex, right? You are reasoning it out using your frontal lobe or prefrontal cortex, and you are generating a correction command. So वो naturally corticospinal plexus से होते हुए आएगा correction. But day-to-day life में this form of correction cannot go on like throughout, because you also need to do things ahead. Next thing क्या करना है, you have to work on that also. Throughout the day, if you keep on correcting errors, you will have no room for thought, no room for any idea, right? That's why error correction happens subconsciously, and this happens with the help of cerebellum. So cerebellum has got an involvement in these 4 steps: planning, algorithm, formation of the algorithm, smooth progression of movement, and error correction, right? Cerebellum is also called as the little brain because of its structure, smaller structure, right, compared to the cerebral cortex, weight, as you can see, are only about 10%. But the total number of neurons within the cerebellum is about more than the number of neurons combined in the rest of the CNS. So it is that much, right? Cerebellum is connected to the brainstem. There are 3 peduncles: superior, middle, and inferior. Superior peduncle clearly is the efferent one. The new fibers originating from the cerebellum, they reach the red nucleus, thalamus, and reticular formation. Efferent, right? Middle one is the afferent one, sensory fibers. Inferior one, now there is book-to-book variation, right? Generally, you find both afferent and efferent in the inferior peduncle, but a majority of the afferent ones, right? So these are the connections of the cerebellum with the brainstem. So all fibers which go in to the cerebellum and come out travel through these 3 peduncles. Okay. What do you find here? So orientation of the cerebellum actually in the brain. So this is the brainstem. Pons, right? Midbrain is above. This is the medulla, right? So cerebellum mein you can see lots of such infoldings, right? So this is just to emphasize the number of neurons that is housed in this small structure. You have 3 layers actually, right? Molecular layer, Purkinje cell layer and granule cell layer in the cerebellar cortex, right? And deep inside you have the medulla. So cortex में जो layers से will come to this the next few slides when you talk about the circuits. But you also see here are two important fissures, right? One is a posterolateral fissure and one is a primary fissure. So they divide the cerebellum into three parts. Divisions of the cerebellum. There is one anatomical division, right? Functional division and phylogenetic division. All of them are actually aligned. Let's see how. So anatomical division, this is a separate one, right? Flocculonodular lobe, and the rest of the one is called as corpus cerebelli. So if I take a broader picture of this, posterolateral fissure, right, that divides flocculonodular lobe from the rest of the cerebellum, and here you have the primary fissure, which divides the remaining one into a anterior, the one with the green color, and the posterior lobe, right? Here what you see, these are also various forms of midline structures, and these terms are more important from anatomy point of view, right? We'll move on to the functional divisions now. The functional division, flocculonodular lobe is concerned with balance, hence the name vestibulocerebellum, right? Midline में जो structure, this midline structure is also called as the vermis, right? So vermis is called and a part of the cerebellar hemispheres, right? This is called as the spinocerebellum. Spinocerebellum में we have the midline vermis, and this areas on the surroundings which we call, they are the intermediate zones of the cerebellum. So spinocerebellum, as the name tells you, something to do with the spinal cord. So cerebellum में जो projections which come down to the spinal cord, to the medial descending systems majorly, and to some extent the lateral descending pathways, this arise from this part, hence the name spinocerebellum, right? So इस division से you also have an idea of the functions of different zones. The lateralmost part of the cerebellar hemispheres is called as the cerebrocerebellum. Why so? Because cerebrocerebellum participates with the cerebral cortex, supplementary motor cortex of the cerebral cortex, and the basal ganglia to plan the movement and form an algorithm. So this is why it is called as cerebrocerebellum, right? So three functional divisions: vestibulocerebellum concerned with balance, spinocerebellum concerned with the medial and lateral descending motor pathways, right? Spinocerebellum में दो हिस्से हैं, one is the vermis and the surrounding part or the adjacent part is the intermediate zone. Cerebrocerebellum, which participates in planning the movement, right? Let's see the phylogenetic division. The phylogenetic division: archicerebellum, paleocerebellum and neocerebellum. Archicerebellum is the oldest. So balance evolution में, like when the human beings evolved as a bipedal organism, right, able to do some form of complex movements. तो इस पूरे प्रकरण में what is important? पहले balance has to be there, right? So this part is called as the archicerebellum. Without balance, you cannot stand up and perform any form of movement. Archicerebellum is this part. Then, before you do any form of complex calculation and planning, major जो movement patterns हैं, stereotype movements, muscle tone, posture, मोटे जो movement patterns हैं, that should be there. So this part is called as the paleocerebellum. And evolutionary point scale में ये जो area है, these are the newest development. So which help us to plan all forms of complicated and complex movements. So evolutionary or phylogenetic divisions are this: archicerebellum, paleocerebellum and neocerebellum. Now let's see the circuits, right? Structure of the circuits. We have a cerebellar cortex and deep cerebellar nuclei. Cerebellum with three layers: molecular layer, Purkinje layer, and the deeper layer in the cerebellar cortex is granular cell layer or granule cell layer. They are mostly formed by dendritic projections and interconnections of this 4-5 cells. Major ones being the Purkinje cells and the granule cells, right? And the other ones, they are not less important, but discussion way usually people tend to talk only of those. So that's, you should not miss Purkinje and granules. There are other forms of interneurons which also participate in neural sharpening. Basket cells, stellate cells and Golgi cells. Deep cerebellar nuclei कौन से हैं? So there are 4: vestigial, globose and emboliform, which are close together called as the interpositus, and dentate nucleus. So this is from medial to lateral. Let's see a picture. So this is a cross section of the cerebellum. So lateral most one is the dentate nucleus, emboliform and globose, the next one together called as the nucleus interpositus, and vestigial, the most medial of this. So whatever the projections from the cerebellum go, कि cerebellum से कहीं और efferent projections from the cerebellum, they go through this deep cerebellar nuclei, except for the vestibulocerebellum. Vestibulocerebellum के जो fibers है या output है, that directly goes to the vestibular nuclei of the brainstem without relying in any deep cerebellar nuclei, right? And how do we know that? So this part was concerned with planning. Lateral most part में जो deep cerebellar nuclei है, that is the dentate nucleus. Now in various forms of experiments it was clearly seen कि dentate nucleus में जो activity है, yes, neural signals है, electrical activity है, that happens before the execution of the movement, right? And hence the conclusion was drawn that this nucleus and the corresponding part of the cerebellum participate in the stages of motor planning, that is before the stage of execution. Moving on to the different layers, right? So cerebellar cortex में, if you take a cross section or a slice, right? So this is the outermost layer, molecular layer, followed by the Purkinje cell layer, and then the granule cell layer is this. Okay, now if you look at the different forms of the neurons which are there, so what is this? This is the deep cerebellar nuclei. Now the ones in yellow, these are the climbing fibers. The ones in blue, these are called as mossy fibers. So climbing and mossy fibers, these are the various two afferent fibers, right? Sensory fibers which go to the cerebellum. Some of them you can see the blue one terminating on the granule cells, right? So these are the ones which we call as the, this layer is called as the granule cell layer, right? So what you also see that granule cell layers further communicate or connect with different interneurons like the stellate cells, for example, the ones in green, the basket cells, for example. You also see that the yellow one, if you go trace, the climbing fibers reach up to the Purkinje cell layers. Purkinje cell layers are multipolar neurons. Purkinje neurons, a very intricate and extensive network of dendritic tree which is there in every Purkinje cell, right? And these are the dendritic branches of the Purkinje cell, and they in turn connect with the parallel fibers which are derived from the granule cells, right? So this is how the different neurons and their dendritic branches interconnect, right? We'll take a more clearer view of this, right? Granule cell, you can see Purkinje cell and molecular cell. Parallel fiber, देखो कहाँ से, it is arising from the granule cell, remember. So granule cell में से some of the dendritic branches which are long will ascend up to the outermost layer, right? You can see it is ascending vertically to the molecular layer, and in the molecular layer it is dividing in the form of a T, right? So ये जो branches है which like the arms of the T, these are what fibers which form the parallel fibers of the cerebellum. Okay. So these are pictures just to give a perspective of how the things are arranged, right? So again, I'll just repeat. So this is the parallel fibers, and as you can see, these are the granule cells. Granule cells again also have a lot of dendritic projections. One of the projections which ascend vertically, they go up to the molecular layer and form or branch at 90 degrees or perpendicularly to form the parallel fiber network. So this is the parallel fiber network that is there. Within that, you see parallel fiber network में कौन से cells connected है? These are the Purkinje cells, right? So the branches or the dendritic spines of the Purkinje cells connect with the parallel fibers again at right angles, right? So if you trace the final output, you can see all of it is eventually coming down to the deep cerebellar nuclei from different aspects. From here, the output goes to the different parts of the brain. Now let's talk about a little bit about this climbing fibers and mossy fibers. Now the afferents to the cerebellum, right? There are two broad ways by which it reaches. Some of the fibers reach directly. They are called as the mossy fibers, right? Some of the fibers reach the inferior olive in the beginning, at the outset. From different parts of the body, they reach the inferior olive, which is a structure in the brain stem. Inferior olive se then they reach the cerebellum. So one is a direct, the mossy fiber. The climbing fiber is actually the fibers which relay in the inferior olive, and from the olive they reach the cerebellum. Right? What are the important features of this climbing fibers? One climbing fiber, synapses with 5 to 10 Purkinje cells, right? And in each of these Purkinje cells, you see there are about 300 of synapses. You see the network that is getting formed. Each climbing fiber, synapses with 5 to 10 Purkinje cell, or har ek mein there are 300 synapses, right? The impulse that you see in a Purkinje cell, it has got again a unique feature, right? So it is a single prolonged action potential, right, extending up to 1 second. So this is a very unique thing. Neurons may, throughout what have we read? What is the duration of action potentials? Nerve physiology mein, right? We have seen that action potentials stay for 10 to 100 milliseconds. Cardiac action potential thoda aur lamba tha, 250 to 300 milliseconds. Here you have a potential which is prolonged or extending up to 1 second, right? So there is a strong spike followed by a trail of signals. So this is important when we talk of the functions in the next class. What is the feature or advantage of this type of action potential? Okay. Mossy fiber, as I said, is different from all the other tracts of the cerebellum. Now what are the other tracts? So you can see the number of tracts which eventually go to the cerebellum. We talked about two important ones in sensory physiology. Spinocerebellar tracts where we have talked, if you remember. One is a ventral spinocerebellar and one is a dorsal spinocerebellar tract. What are these tracts carrying? They are carrying the function of, or the sensation of proprioception. Unconscious proprioception. Proprioception is the sense of position. The position sense you can get from different types of mechanoreceptors in the skin, subcutaneous tissue, joints, right? You can also get this position sense can also be felt from the muscle spindle, Golgi tendon organ. Because ये भी position के ही variations है where like this reflexes are activated. So all of this they reach the cerebellum. You can see these two important ones: proprioceptive and exteroceptive impulses from the whole body. Ventral spinocerebellar also this is the same one. Now the unique feature of the ventral spinocerebellar tract is इनका जो information feedback है that is not actually from the peripheries. They take the information from the spinal cord back to the cerebellum. Spine की brain से जो plan execute होना शुरू हुआ था, right? How much of it has correctly reached the spinal cord, right? So that feedback is carried by the ventral spinocerebellar tract. Of course, it is about proprioception. Position में कितना सही है या गलत. Dorsal spinocerebellar from the entire part of the body, like all of the receptors that I just mentioned. First one is the vestibulocerebellar tract. So as the name tells you, vestibular impulses. Vestibular impulses pertain to the sense of balance or equilibrium. And where will they come from? They will either come from the inner ear, the labyrinth of the inner ear. We have semicircular canals, right? We have utricle, saccule, all these structures. The sense of balance can come directly from this inner ear structure or from the vestibular nuclei of the spinal cord. Cuneo-cerebellar also is a proprioceptive input from the head and neck, right? Tectocerebellar, right? Tectocerebellar. Tectum is a structure at the level of the midbrain. So auditory and visual impulses, right? So auditory impulses, they will relay via the inferior colliculi. Visual impulses relay by the superior colliculi. So from the colliculi, this information which goes to the cerebellum is called as the tectocerebellar tract. What is the significance of this sensory tract? What comes to your mind? Cerebellum will finally, what will it do? It will do some form of movement, right? Or some form of postural adjustment. This is ultimately what cerebellum will do. So whenever there is a sudden sound, like an explosion or a loud sound, right? So there is a reflex movement to the side. Sometimes we may lose our balance, but somehow we are able to get hold of our composure. So ये जो rapid reflexes है, this is relayed by this particular tracts. Why am I saying it is a reflex? Because it is not reaching the cerebral cortex per se. तो ये cerebellum तक ही पहुंच रहा है and cerebellum से immediately one type of correction movement is issued from the cerebellum, bringing about a movement and if necessary a postural correction also. A similar thing might happen when you have, like when you're looking at somewhere and you have a flying object in your visual field, you will immediately turn, right? तो अभी हम लोगों को लग रहा है कि these things are very simple, but real life में these movements can be so rapid that you might lose your balance, and then before you fall to the ground you have to hold yourself. So these are the tracts which make it possible with the help of cerebellum. Pontocerebellar. तो pons से cerebellum तक. So you can see it is a part of the cerebellar pontocortical circuit. Cerebellum का जो final output है वो ultimately जाएगा cerebral cortex तक for execution. So this is a part of that. And olivocerebellar, as I said, जितना भी proprioceptive input है, it can reach directly through mossy fibers, or they can reach the olive first, inferior olive first, from where they will reach the cerebellum in the form of climbing fibers. So these are the various afferents to the cerebellum. Now talking of the parallel fibers. So we have just seen in the picture that parallel fibers are derived from granule cells. Here also the number is so enormous amount. There are 500 to 1000 granule cells for every Purkinje cell, right? And dendrites of the Purkinje cells, you see that we have shown that it is in the form of a T, right? And the Purkinje fiber dendrites, they project into the arms of the T. How many connections are there? 80,000 to 2 lakh parallel fibers synapse with each Purkinje cell. This is again an enormously large network, right? However, here activation of a parallel fiber is not as prolonged a potential as in climbing fiber. This is the cerebellar circuit, right? So cerebellar circuit is known for its fine-tuning action, right? So it is a circuit which undergoes turn on and turn off at regular intervals. This is the beauty of this circuit. So let's start from the first point. So deep cerebellar nuclei mein, you can see the mossy fibers even before they reach the cortex. The cortex, they are entering the cortex from the core of the cerebellum, spinal cortex, right? So their first projection to the deep cerebellar nuclei, they are exciting this deep cerebellar nuclei, and output deep cerebellar nuclei, as I said, is always excitatory. So initially, what is the effect of this? This initial burst of reinforcement. It provides a thrust at the initiation of the movement. Initiation जब हो गया, so it is actually turning on the circuit, right? An initial push to the beginning, at the beginning of the movement, right? That's why rapid movements also can be started abruptly. क्योंकि but motor cortex by itself is insufficient for this, abrupt initiation. It needs the reinforcement from this. Let's trace it back further, right? So Mossy fibers, then what is happening? They are reaching the granule cells. They are exciting the granule cells. Granule cells, in turn, right? इनके जो you can see the fibers dividing in the form of a T, right? Granule cells in turn are exciting. Let's talk of the Purkinje cell first. तो Mossy fiber ने पहले granule cell को excite किया. Granule cell in turn excited the Purkinje cell. Purkinje cell inhibits the deep cerebellar nuclei, right? So now the activity of this nuclei is inhibited. तो इसका जो excitation था, that is gone now, right? So now the same signal, the same pathway, what we find here is initially एक signal ऐसा हुआ जिसने the movement को reinforce किया, right? At the same time, the signal as it went or transmitted further through the circuit, through the relay of the Purkinje cell, it turned it off, right? So पूरे cerebellar circuit में there are this multiple checks and balances. Circuit में at every step there is one form of turning on and turning off. If you trace the basket cell, for example, what is happening? To signal granule cell को excite कर रहा है, it is exciting the parallel fiber, which in turn is also exciting the basket cell, right? Basket cell in turn is exciting the Purkinje cell, so inhibiting the Purkinje cell. तो Purkinje cell जो कि deep cerebellar nuclei को inhibit कर रहा था, when it is itself inhibited, then its inhibition effect is gone. So deep cerebellar nuclei can keep on exciting. So this is an additional layer of a check and balance. So we could see that this is one point where it was turning it circuit on, right? Through the Purkinje cell, it was a turn off. Motor activity को off कर रहा है. Through the basket cell again, it is a turn on. So पूरे cerebellar circuit में there are, as I said, multiple points of checks and balances. And the reason why it is like this is cerebellum needs to participate in smooth progression of the movement and refining the movement, right? Refining में कौन सी चीज़ें आती हैं कि progression smooth हो, scaling, just like the basal ganglia, there should be a proper scaling. Scaling कैसा? कि what is the extent that needs to be covered in the movement, right? Cerebellar lesion अगर है, तो if you want to say, I want to reach this point, so I might end up going beyond this or below or shorter than this. So scaling aspect of in terms of distance or length, scaling in terms of direction. Should I go like this or should I go like this? And scaling in terms of force. कितने speed से the movement should happen. All of this is possible because circuit में ऐसे जगहें हैं which can actually keep on modifying, right? So I've already talked about this. Resting, just the bottom line is resting condition में the net output is always excitatory. So these are the areas where you can see that the neural signal gets sharpened. And here you find different forms of feed forward networks, right? So पहला we have already talked, granule cell पहले excite हुआ and it is exciting both the basket cell and the Purkinje cell. Purkinje cell से net effect is inhibitory, basket cell inhibits the Purkinje cell and the net effect is excitatory. This is an example of feed forward, right? तो उसने not only this afferent fiber affected the deep cerebellar nuclei, but indirect pathways say it also like influenced the steps ahead, right? We also see that the same afferent fiber or Mossy fiber, it also excites the Golgi cells, right? Golgi cell in turn inhibits the granule cell. तो granule cell अगर inhibit होता है, all these effects will be modified, right? So this is an example of feed forward inhibition of granule cell, right? तो हमने पहले देखा feed forward inhibition of Purkinje cell. This is a feed forward inhibition of the granule cell itself. And then granule cell के जो parallel fibers हैं, they not only synapse with the basket cell and the Purkinje cell, they also synapse some of them with the Golgi cell themselves. So Golgi cell itself again inhibits the granule cell. So this is a feedback inhibition of granule cell. You understand the difference between these two? दोनों में granule cell is getting inhibited, right? But here it is a feed forward inhibition. Without relaying the granule cell first, ये पहले एक इंटरन्यूरॉन को स्टिमुलेट कर रहा है, which in turn is inhibiting. This type of inhibition is feed forward inhibition. Here what is happening? Normal, we are talking about the normal pathway. Mossy fiber ने पहले granule cell को excite किया. Parallel fibers से it has gone to the Purkinje basket. All of this, but it has also reached some Golgi cells, which in turn is inhibiting the granule cell itself, right? So this is a feedback inhibition. So the role of this smaller sub-circuits in the broader cerebellar circuitry is sharpening the neural signals as we decide कि कब हमें ज़्यादा activity चाहिए, कब कम चाहिए. So you can see the multiple points where this type of modulation is possible. So what we understand from today's class is about cerebellum, it directly does not execute any movement, but it helps in making the movement aesthetic, right? In various ways. As desired, it makes it refined, it makes it beautiful. And how does it do this? Because of the unique arrangement of the cerebellar circuit where there are multiple stops and checks as well as multiple points of reinforcement, right? Broader circuit may there are like 2 or 3 smaller sub-circuits where feed forward inhibition, feedback inhibition, all of this is possible, right? So next class we'll talk about the functions and we'll talk about the lesions of cerebellum. Thank you.